A Christmas Tree. This is a film made in Russia, 1959. Original music composed and conducted by Nikolsky. English by Martin Gilbert. Once upon a Christmas in Moscow, Russia, there lived a little boy named Kolya. He always loved the Christmas season. It was the time of year when people were happy and trees were decorated with many beautiful ornaments. This year was different for Kolya. As he looked at all the pretty decorations on the Christmas tree, he thought of his father who worked as a weatherman in faraway Antarctica. Kolya knew that in the land at the bottom of the world there were no trees to decorate, nothing but ice and snow.
If only there was some way Daddy could have a Christmas tree.
Why, Christmas just isn't Christmas without a tree and all the ornaments. Yes, if only there was a way Kolya could be sure his daddy would have a tree for Christmas.
If only there was a way, if only.
Hop in.
Thank you.
Where to?
Antarctica, please.
Where? Why, that's at the South Pole, isn't it?
I want to take my father this tree.
I wish I could help you. I don't have enough gas. Say, look, there's someone who can help. That's Santa Claus. Kolya looked up into the clear night sky and saw Santa Claus zooming about in his star-studded jet plane. It streaked across the sky, brighter than any comet. Then it swooped to the ground and slid to a stop.
Santa Claus, hello, hello!
Merry Christmas, Kolya. Now, what would you like this year? A mechanical toy, or how about a big television set?
Oh, Santa, my daddy...
I know you'd like to take him that Christmas tree. Well, you take my plane, but you must reach your daddy in Antarctica before the clock strikes 12, or else. Now, when the clock strikes the first chime, climb aboard the Star Shooter and take off. Stop for nothing. That's a mighty long trip. It could be hard to do. Just keep going, for with the last chime at 12, the Christmas magic will stop.
Oh, I understand, Santa, but what do I...
Now, Kolya, just hang on to your tree. Don't hit the Big Dipper. Keep going south, and remember you must be there before the 12th chime.
Oh, I see.
Goodbye now.
Is that the first chime?
Yes, there's no time to lose.
All right, I'll do as you say. Thank you, Santa. Bye. I'm off to Antarctica.
Let's go, driver. I've got more work to do. Off Kolya went into space with the magic of Santa's Star Shooter. He clutched his decorated tree, his heart pounding with anxiety, very determined to reach Antarctica before the last chime. Second chime, and Kolya was approaching Italy.
I can hardly believe it. It's beautiful.
The sky lit up with magnificent fireworks in celebration of the Yuletide season. There was so much to see. And then Kolya grew very warm.
Phew, we must be going over Africa. Ooh, it's a long way down.
And as Kolya looked below, a horrifying sight caught his eyes. A sandstorm swirled angrily from the ground. The fierce wind whipped round and round. Higher and higher went the wind. And as the third chime sounded, the violent wind surrounded the star-studded ship and crumbled it like stardust. Kolya clung to his Christmas tree with all his might.
Halt! Stop, I say!
Oh, please don't eat me, Mr. Lion. I don't taste good.
I wouldn't eat a little boy. I have children of my own. I just want to know where you got your pretty Christmas tree.
Oh, from my home in Russia. That's where.
I've been running all over Africa looking for one. What a waste of time.
Oh, I'd give you this one, but I can't because I want to take it to my daddy in Antarctica. It's for Christmas. At the 5th chime. Oh, no. Oh, quick. Which way is the South Pole?
Let me see. Bless my stars, I do remember. It's that way. Go straight, then turn right.
Oh, thanks. But I don't think I can go fast enough. You go fast. I'm in such a hurry. Could you?
Give you a ride? Why, sure, Sonny. Hold on tight.
It's the 6. Please hurry.
Whoops! I don't do well in water. Boys, stop monkeying around and build a raft for this lad. He's got to reach Antarctica immediately. That's service, lad. The raft ought to float you to Antarctica.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Still clutching his tree as the 7th chime sounded, Kolya stood bravely on his raft. When a huge wave swelled, his raft fell apart. Then his feet touched something strange.
Now, how in the salty seas did such a little boy get way out here?
Oh, I'm on my way to Antarctica. Can you hear me? Oh, Mr. Whale, could you help me get to Antarctica, Mr. Whale? Oh. It's the 8th. I've got to hurry, please.
No blubbering. Leave that to the whales, and I'll give you a whale of a ride.
The whale proudly shot through the rough waters, faster than any ship could sail, to the very shores of Antarctica.
Thanks.
Once ashore, Kolya trudged onward even though a snowstorm almost broke his last hopes.
My dad's not afraid of snowstorms, so I won't be either. Goodness, there's the 9th. Oops.
Oh, frozen icebergs. What kind of a bird are you? Oh,
I'm no bird. I'm a boy, and I'm looking for my father.
a boy. Oh, my goodness. I'm a penguin, so you're a human boy. That's very interesting.
The 10th chime. Oh, please. Where's the weather station?
The what? The weather station? Oh, I'm glad you're a boy. I'm a penguin. Are you sure? Oh, you're the son of the weatherman at the camp. I thought you were. Yes, you look like him, just like him. I look like my family, too. See, don't we all look alike? We always have looked alike. Never saw anything before like it. We always look alike. Yes, we do.
Oh, please, my daddy. You don't understand.
I do. Want me to sing for you?
That's the 11th chime. We'll have to hurry or I'll be late.
We'll help you then. Come on, everybody. Oops. Hey, you want something?
Oh, we're too late. Oh, there it is. Too late.
Kolya was frozen with disappointment. He couldn't go any further.
Oh.
Kolya? Here's a cable for you from Antarctica.
Oh, Antarctica? Oh, thank you. It's from Daddy. Mother, a cable from Daddy. Oh, Mother, look, read it.
Received a big Christmas tree by plane today. Merry Christmas, love, Daddy.
Oh, Daddy did get his Christmas tree. He did. Hooray!
That's fine. Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year, too.
Long ago, on a hillside near Bethlehem, sat a very young shepherd, playing a gay, happy tune on his little wooden pipe. In that year, the Emperor of Rome had ordered all the people to be counted and taxed, each man in his own city. And so the highways were soon filled with travelers, returning to the towns where they had been born. On the road were a carpenter called Joseph and his wife, Mary. Their hometown, Bethlehem, was a city now filled with visitors, all looking for places to stay. And by twilight, Joseph and Mary were weary of searching. They had tried to find shelter for the night, and while people with plenty of money to offer were taken care of, Joseph and Mary were always turned away. Each place they stopped seemed to be full. Again and again they were disappointed and had to move on. When they came to the owner of one of the last inns, they were told that it too was full. But then the innkeeper remembered an old barn in back of his place of lodging. It was not much of a place, but Joseph and Mary were welcome to use it. This was where they would stay for the night. And in this old, dingy stable, the animals made room for the unexpected guests. As Joseph made Mary comfortable and the weary tourists took their rest, night settled over Bethlehem. And in the stillness of that holy night, the little town waited silently for the wondrous gift that was to be given. In the sky that night, in the sky above the sleeping city, a strange new star appeared, the Star of Bethlehem, telling of the birth of a great new king to be cradled in a manger. And so it was that Christ the Savior was born in Bethlehem on that silent night so long ago. Nearby in the countryside, the shepherds were watching by their fires. Then, with the star, appeared a light, bright with the glory of angels, angels who sang to them of the birth of a king in a manger in Bethlehem. Full of wonder and surprise, the shepherds hoped to see the child of whom the angels sang. They gathered their sheep together and started toward the town. From the hilltop, they could see the star, and beneath it, they knew they would find the stable whose manger held the heavenly king. On they came, and the first to arrive was the very young shepherd, playing his pipe. As he saw the baby with Mary and Joseph, he came close to the manger. Before the holy child, the shepherds all knelt and offered to him the beloved pipe, a sheepskin cap, and a little lamb. And when they had worshipped him, they would go to tell others of this wonderful thing that had happened. Far to the east, there were others who saw the star. In Turkestan, a princely astronomer sat studying his instruments. And suddenly in the sky above, the new star shone. In India, a king watched from the balcony of his marble-columned palace as the star grew larger and larger. And on the desert sands of Arabia, a ruler was gazing toward the heavens, seeing that same star as it told of the new king's birth. To them all, it meant that a king had been sent from God, a king they would worship. Each one set out to follow the star and to bring to the child a gift of love. The astronomer boarded his ship and sailed over the waves toward the guiding star. The Indian ruler, on an elephant, moved toward the mountains as the star went before him. And from Arabia, across the desert, came the third king on a camel. It was a long journey and a hard one for all of them. But as they followed the star, each came nearer to the land of Israel, where Herod ruled. King Herod also saw the star and sent for his counselors. To Herod's advisors, the star fulfilled a prophecy that a king should be born in Bethlehem, in the land of Judah. And while the eastern kings continued their journey toward Jerusalem, Herod was disturbed by this unwelcome news. Thinking surely that King Herod could direct them to the newborn child, the wise men came to his palace to seek his advice. Perhaps they would find the babe there, in the palace. Herod sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "When you have found the child, tell me that I may worship him also." Of course, the wicked Herod had other plans, for he was jealous of the child king. But the wise men, who would be warned by God, were to return home another way. And so once more the kings from the east took their gifts and followed the guiding star. It led them out the north gates of the city, on toward the Bethlehem hills. Then, above the little town, it seemed to stop. At last they knew that here, in Bethlehem, they should find the newborn king. They did find him, and with him the young shepherd who had brought the first gift to the manger. They knew that the star had led them to this child who was the king they were seeking. The wise men went into the Holy Family and offered their gifts to the infant Jesus. Filled with awe and wonder, they knelt before him and put at his feet a crown of gold, chest of frankincense, a jar of myrrh. And they worshipped him, the child of the line of David, the Son of God, the King to be called Emmanuel.
Welcome, one and all, to the Little Story Shop, a magic place of stories and toys for girls and boys. Let's go inside now and meet Mr. and Mrs. Little. And here they are, Mr. and Mrs. Little. The children of the town love to come in and listen to their stories and see the toys. Maybe we'll hear a story now.
Do you hear the carolers, Mr. Little? What does that remind you of?
Yes, my dear, I hear the carolers. They remind me of a Christmas some time ago.
Tell us all about it, Mr. Little.
I believe it would be best if Mrs. Little told this story. I seldom talk about myself. Well, not very often, anyway.
All right, sir. I'll tell it. There's a lot to learn in this story about Mr. Little, children. So listen. This story takes us back several years ago to another time just before Christmas. And as always, the boys were singing in the street. But things were a little different then. You see, Mr. Little wasn't always the friendly, pleasant gentleman he is today. In fact, he was rough, gruff, and just a little difficult to get along with. Why, he didn't even like the music. In fact, I don't think he liked anyone, which is not a very good way for a toy maker to be.
Why don't they stop that infernal singing?
Well, I frankly didn't know what to do. We were so awfully busy with Christmas so near, and I knew that Mr. Little was afraid he couldn't get all the toys made.
I'd give anything for some good help.
Did you say anything?
At first, we didn't know who on earth said that. We looked all over, and then we saw him. What a strange little fellow he was. Where he came from, who he was, what he wanted, we had no idea. But he certainly was there.
Well, now, did you say you'd give anything for some good help?
Why, yes, I guess I did say that.
Good. Then I'll go to work for you, and when I'm through, you'll give me anything I want in the store.
Yes, certainly, certainly. But what can you do?
You just watch me. Just watch me.
My, you should have seen that little fellow go to work. Mercy, he worked so fast, why, we could hardly keep up with him. And night and day he worked away, doing this and that and everything. He stopped only for two things, to eat a little bread now and then, and to listen to the carolers. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let everything again. Let every heart prepare in room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And one day, as he was listening to the choir, a little girl came up to our window. He could tell that she wanted something inside. We didn't know what the two were so interested in, but they seemed to get along famously, and they became fast friends, for every day she returned when the carolers were there, and every day the elf talked to her. And on we worked, and never before had we made so many toys and had such good business. But wouldn't you know that Mr. Little got worried because everything was going so well? He was worried about what he would have to pay our little elf friend for all his work. After all, he had promised him anything.
Oh, maybe he'll take all our profits.
Well, you can see that Mr. Little was really worried. In those days, he was quite a worrisome person. But everything seemed to go on smoothly. The elf worked harder than ever. And the carolers came every day with their songs. And the little girl came to stare in the window. And finally, Christmas Eve came, and what a day that was. We sold just about everything in the shop, and our tireless little friend had helped us every minute. While we were sitting there, talking about our good fortune, we had a visitor outside our window. We didn't see her, but you can bet our friend the elf did. And suddenly...
I want my pay!
Well, you can imagine how this startled Mr. Little. He finally managed to mutter,
Yes, certainly. What would you like?
You said I could have anything in the shop, so I want the big doll in the window.
The doll? Yes, well, yes, of course. The doll. She is yours.
I was just a little surprised, too. And I could hardly believe my eyes as Mr. Little gave him the doll. And the funny little fellow stood there with that big, beautiful toy in his arms.
So, my friends, I've been well paid. Thank you, and Merry Christmas!
We were both speechless, to say the least. And before we knew it, the little elf was gone.
This I cannot believe. He worked so hard, and for only a doll. I do not understand. I must follow him to see what he does with it.
And that's exactly what Mr. Little did. Follow that little man out into the street. And when Mr. Little came inside the church, he saw what the elf was going to do with the doll. He was going to give it to the little girl. And when she saw the beautiful doll, she could hardly believe her eyes. Here was just what she'd always wanted. She couldn't speak, but the elf knew this would be her happiest Christmas. Mr. Little was beginning to find out something new about Christmas. Like so many of us, he was terribly busy with the buying and selling, building and wrapping, working and planning for this busy time of year, that he had forgotten about some of the other things of Christmas, like giving and thinking of the happiness of others, and thinking, too, about the real meaning of Christmas. He never found the little elf again, but Mr. Little found Christmas. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let everything the King. Let every heart prepare Him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Yes, Mr. Little was a new man after that night. He came out of the church with a wonderful feeling of joy and peace. As he walked along the street, he thought of the many things he would do to help make people happy, not only on Christmas, but every day of the year. And when he came home, he couldn't hold it back any longer.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas to everyone.
And so you see, that's what Mr. Little thinks about whenever he hears the carolers in the street.
Yes, children, they taught me that there's a great deal more to Christmas than selling toys. And I've never forgotten it. And don't you forget it either.
And that, children, is the story of the elf and Mr. Little.